My name is Isabel. Daddy told me that before I was born, he had no idea how he could love anything else, since he had already given all the love he had to my mother. He added that the first moment he held me, he fell head over heels in love again. In the small eyes of a child, he was the best father on the planet. Even in all his shortcomings, he did the best by me he could. The week before Thanksgiving, I was born a 4-pound, 7-ounce baby who spent the first week of her life in a chamber that used compression to make the patient breathe. Inside a hospital, I gained weight and became healthy enough to go home with my mommy and daddy. Their travel trailer was situated near a carnival. Before they carried me inside from the car, my father cradled me in his arms, crawled into an airplane kiddie ride, and took me for a quick spin. Mama was with a bag full of goodies and all the things she's asked for. Everyone in the show watched and clapped, then congratulated them both on the new arrival. I was around 6 years old when my father located a cute little apartment in Queens, New York City. I was enrolled in kindergarten when I should have been in first grade. I was a year behind. Close friends were hard to come by, and most of the kids in the carnival ended up moving around from one carnival to another. So having a place to call home was nice. Daytime at school was great, a relief for small children when at home life was even more hectic than it had been on the road. Daily activities with the kids close to my age were my favorite times of the day. I dreaded loading on the bus to be dropped off at home. From what I could gather, I listened in on Mommy and Daddy, hoping they'd find a way to stop arguing. Being held down in one place made it difficult to find work. No one wanted to hire my father because all his job history had to do with carnival work. At that time, money from our carnival days had run out. The arguing became more intense when Mama mentioned leaving and taking me with her. At that time, this meant to me that I was the reason they had started to not like each other. At least Mommy still loved me and wanted me with her. But Daddy loved me too and didn't want to be without us. Daddy always had a pocket full of candy. He had me dig around in his pockets to find the piece I wanted. I would have to reach in and bring out piece after piece until I got what I wanted. One day, Daddy was outside to skin a rabbit for dinner. Rabbit tasted a lot like chicken doused in gravy, was one of my favorite dishes. Daddy stopped sliding the sharp blade down the rabbit and turned to me. He said, "Do you know what screwing is?" I pictured Daddy using a screwdriver on one of his carnival rides. But to me, Daddy had sounded weird. "I know what a screwdriver is, Daddy. I have seen you use one on your ride." "No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'll show you one of these days." He tugged the fur of the rabbit and dropped it in the bucket. "Okay, when?" I was always delighted to learn new things. "Right now, if you want to." He gave me a one-tooth grin and placed the skinless rabbit on the cutting board. He hurried me in the house. When we were inside my daddy and mommy's bedroom, he shut the wooden door and locked it. My daddy put me on the bed and had me take off my underwear. "I don't want to do this, Daddy," I told him. Ignoring me, he spread my legs and stood between them. He rubbed his penis on me, but when he tried to get it to go further, it was too big to fit. I started crying. "If you don't shut up, I'll hang you from the nail on the back of the door so you can't move." He sounded mean and mad. I'd never seen him like that. When he was done, he wiped me off and helped me get dressed. "Don't tell anyone, it will hurt your mama's feelings. You don't want to do that, do you?" The last time, the coercion not to tell had been a death threat. This time, I was as bothered by his words. I hated seeing Mama cry. She was always crying lately. I nodded, my bottom lip quivering. "I won't tell." And since I didn't, it never stopped. Having no job, Daddy volunteered to watch me, and of course that was a package deal. I never fought back. It kept things peaceful. Plus, I hoped that it saved my mom from having to deal with his anger. But at night, I had developed the habit of locking my door, and since had never slept through the night. One day, when Mom and I were alone, I told her I no longer wanted Daddy to stay with me. He says weird stuff all the time. I don't like being with him, I told her. I didn't realize he was scaring you, she said. I was silent. Fear of breaking her heart, I kept the secret buried deep. He's very scary, I said. Mama hugged me tight, the way she always did, to make all the hurt and fear go away. When I was old enough to work, I left home and vowed never to return. Mama and Daddy didn't seem to be fighting as much as they had been, and were hugging and kissing a lot more often. That made me feel good. I heard later on that Mama was broken-hearted, but it was the only way I would be free. At least I thought. It was this time around that I would meet my husband. He was the kindest man I had ever met, and his devotion to me quickly made me fall in love with him. His family loved me the minute they saw me too. They thought I was too pretty for him. It didn't take long and we got married. I remember the first night he would make love to me. I was very anxious and avoided contact. I made up an excuse and told him I needed more time. I feared that I would see my father while he was on top of me. Luckily, my husband thought I was just being shy and thought I was an easy woman, and he wouldn't mind waiting. He didn't know I felt shame and didn't want him to know I was not a virgin anymore. That went on for 2 weeks and then months. And finally, on the 5th month, I ran out of excuses and had to give in. The first few nights were awful as I felt discomfort when he touched me in certain areas of my body. Instead of him, I would see my father. Oftentimes, I would feel distress, shame, and guilt when I felt aroused by my husband. I never told my husband for fear that he would leave me if he found out I had slept with my father for many years. A year later, for some reason, miraculously, I was no longer seeing my father. I began enjoying my husband's touch as I felt his love for me. This was also the year that he was drafted in Afghanistan. We kept in touch through video calls, and that kept me hopeful. Prayer has helped me cope from remembering the memories of my father. Oftentimes, I felt I had an angel watching over me. That at least kept me safe. Now I'm getting better as I'm going to therapy. I still lock my room at night and is sometimes haunted by my experience. But I believe I can get better. Now I am able to tell my story without having a panic attack. I realized that I was so scared I was going to lose my mind. But now I've made it. Even though my fear was so real, it's in the past now and it can't hurt me. I want to focus on moving forward.